Hey there, welcome to the channel. This is Caffinicus, and I'd like to apologize for not posting new videos over the summer. So hopefully I'll make it up to everyone with today's World of Warships video, which resulted in one of my highest base XP games ever. I'm playing the Albemarle, the Tier 8 Tech 3 Royal Navy Heavy Cruiser in a Tier 8 maximum game on the map Two Brothers. There is a carrier on each side, along with 5 battleships, so I do have to be a bit careful about getting spotted and smashed. Anyway, my team spawns south, and I'm on the eastern side of the map, so I'll be supporting the push at the D cap. As usual, we'll start off with the strengths and weaknesses of the ship as we move into position. Let's begin with the guns. The Albemarle has 9 203mm guns in 3 triple turrets in the ABX configuration. The rate of fire is on the low end for heavy cruisers at this tier, with only 4.6 rounds per minute, and an anemic range of 15.7 kilometers fully upgraded. You do have the ability to launch a spotter plane to extend that range, so that does help you fire from afar if needed. The HE shells are excellent, with a max damage of 3300 and a 17% chance to cause fires. The AP shells though are more situational, as they only hit up to 4500 damage on a citadel. I found myself firing HE for the most part in this ship, and only switching to AP on cruisers that are showing me a full broadside to slap them by surprise. The Albemarle does have torpedoes to supplement its firepower, and these are pretty decent, with a 10-kilometer range and 62 knots base speed. The 2-kilometer increase that you get over the Surrey's torpedo range makes these fishes much more viable, and the 15.5k damage isn't bad either. Like the other ships in this line, you only get one launcher on each side of the ship, with 4 torpedoes per launcher, but that's still a good deterrent against enemies who are pushing into you. And as with other Royal Navy ships, you can choose to launch your torpedoes individually or in a salvo. In terms of detection, the Albemarle is actually very stealthy for a heavy cruiser. You have a 9.8 kilometer surface detection with Captain Skill's mod and camo, which is second only to the Mogami among the Tier 8 Tech 3 heavy cruisers. Though you can argue that the Mogami is actually a light cruiser, since it's more fun with the 155s in my opinion. Anyway, what makes the Albemarle special is its ability to equip the repair party consumable. The only other Tech 3 Tier 8 cruisers that can equip this is its Royal Navy light cruiser counterpart, the Edinburgh, and the new Dutch cruiser, the Haarlem. While you only get 2 charges base compared to 3 on the Edinburgh and the Haarlem, this is a super heal, so timely use will allow the Albemarle to come back to life like a zombie on steroids. On the downside though, the ship's AA is so-so, and fires out to 5.8 kilometers. The problem is that you get plane detected at 6.2, which means that there's a 400-meter buffer where the enemy planes can keep you lit without any repercussion. The maneuverability isn't great either. The Albemarle's base top speed of 33 knots puts it just above the very cluttered low end of the spectrum at Tier 8. And while the 720-meter turning radius isn't bad, the rudder shift is abysmal, meaning the ship feels rather awkward to maneuver. You also don't have the physics-defying acceleration found on the Royal Navy lights, meaning you'll have to make a choice between the propulsion and steering gears mod in your 4th slot. But the biggest downside is that the Citadel is huge and sits above the waterline. It is backed by 152mm of armor plating, which is okay when angled, but exposing your broadside in the ship will get you sent back to port faster than you can save Quidditch. Also, be especially careful when you're kiting away in the Albemarle. The aft section of the ship feels like a Citadel magnet, and I've gotten smashed several times by shells chewing straight through the armor plating into the Citadel. But let's get back to the game as we get rid of the enemy destroyer. I really wanted to deal with the Kagero as he was a major torpedo threat, and he would have stalled our push into D. He smoked up, but with my Hydro we were able to keep that destroyer lit and take him out. You also saw how nasty the Albemarle's HE can be as we put over 7k damage into the Kagero with just our first salvo. And while we did take some damage in the engagement from both the Archakov and the Pensacola, that's okay because a lot of it is recoverable. I also make full use of my concealment here by silencing my guns and going dark. My plan was to turn around and head into D from the other side of this island. And now that I'm no longer broadside, I can start firing at the enemy ships that are lit. I want to focus on the Ochakov as much as possible for a couple of reasons. He's got a radar, which covers D, so there's no way to stealth Cap while he's alive. And he also doesn't have a heal, so every bit of damage will stick. And there we go, another 7,000 damage salvo with just our HE shells. The island is blocking our shot now, so we switch targets to the enemy Colorado. We do get a fire on the Colorado just before getting behind the island cover, but unfortunately he puts it out. So what do we do now? I want to get into the edge of the cap here, but the Ochakov's radar catches me for just a moment as I'm about to push in. The radar duration ends, so that means I've got a bit of time to try to get the cap before he can light me up again. I push up, but there are planes incoming, so I decide to turn out to avoid getting lit. I really don't want to be spotted and get stuck in a crossfire between the Colorado and the Warspite. No amount of healing will help if I get one-shotted here. Unfortunately, this maneuver gets me into a kissing face situation with our friendly Queen Elizabeth, and I grind to a halt. It's a bad spot to be in, but fortunately, the enemy ships are busy trying to finish off our friendly York. I try to keep a close eye on both enemy battleships as I get back to speed, and fortunately, they're not looking in my direction. We take advantage of this to fire off another salvo at the Colorado. As long as I can get one battleship taken care of, I can start to angle my ship a little bit better. We do get another fire on that Colorado, but his DCP is back up yet again, and so it doesn't stick. Okay, that's fine. We know the Ochakov has used his radar just a little while ago, so we're going to go dark once again just to make sure that we cap out D. I stop firing and start angling away just in case I need to make a quick split. I've also switched to AP in case the Ochakov comes out broadside to reset the cap. Oh, just look at that Pensacola. He's sailing broadside and it is such a tempting target. But I figure that picking up the cap is more important here to make sure that our team evens up the point game, so I let him get away. Our buddy in the Queen Elizabeth is backing off as well. If he had continued pushing forward, it would have meant that he'd stay lit, and the enemy team would keep getting resets, which is pointless for our team. We stay quiet for just a few more seconds to finish off the cap. But I do keep an eye on that Ochakov though, in case he reverses out. But he doesn't do it as I hoped. Well, we've got the cap now, so it's time to turn back around to push forward. The cyclone is also starting, and the Ochakov has decided to try to make a break and run for it from the other side of the island. I still have my AP loaded just for this occasion, so I take aim and fire. And unfortunately, I completely whiff all my shells as they land short. Good job there, Calf. Aiming is hard, isn't it? Well, we fire off our second salvo of AP, but we don't do much here either as he turns hard away. So I switched back to the old reliable HE, and this time we aim carefully to make sure that that pesky cruiser doesn't get away. We take out the Ochakov for my second kill of the game, which is great as it procs Andrew Cunningham's special talent to give me an extra charge of all my consumables, including that super heal. So that's perfect as it gives the ship that extra bit of sustain if needed. We also chew on a few extra planes here, taking my total to 20 planes shot down. So you can see that the Albemarle's AA is fairly decent for self-defense. The cyclone is now in full swing, so visibility has been reduced to 8 kilometers. I still have my QE buddy with me, so I decide to push forward and see if we can pick up the BCAT. I know there's a Warspite lurking north of my position, and potentially a Colorado somewhere towards the east as well. I blind fired at the Warspite's last known position using the minimap, but no luck, and we whiff all our shells. I'm not too sure where the Pensacola is headed, but I expect he's probably trying to get rid of our Parseval in the channel between the two islands. So I ping the map and try to tell our carrier to get back. Our team is ahead at this point, but losing a top tier carrier can quickly turn things around. And that's also when the Warspite pops into view. I get the first shot off, and also launch my torpedoes along his predicted path. My salvo lights a fire on the Warspite, but he immediately used his DCP. I've also switched to AP as he is broadside to me, and this decision pays off as the Pensacola pops up as well. He was only slightly angled, so we can see how well the Royal Navy AP performs in this situation. Yep, AP still puts out the hurt on broadside ships, as we got a Citadel on the Pensacola. I am angled poorly against it though, so I go into full reverse and start to angle against both the Pensacola and the Warspite. And there we go, we start bouncing shells. The Pensacola avoids all my torpedoes, but the Warspite eats one, which starts a flood. I continue to focus down the Pensacola with my AP and wreck the tier 6 cruiser. Now it's just the Warspite left. He's engaging my QE buddy, which allows me to take advantage and get in some free hits. He is still showing me a good bit of his side, so I move up and start punching holes in his ship. And yep, a 10k AP salvo there. He's also still flooding for my torpedo hit, so this guy is doomed. Oh, my secondaries added salt to the wound by starting a fire. We get another good salvo in, all the while dodging a torpedo strike from the enemy carrier. The Warspite starts healing and angles away, so our AP fails to knock him out. But our secondaries light yet another fire. Cruiser secondaries are OP, must nerf. And the Warspite finally goes down and clears our path towards the B cap. There is still the carrier and the enemy Colorado left, but at this point our team pretty much has this game in the bag. I figure I'd cap B to try to get as much additional XP as possible while our Nagato and Bliska work on the enemy Colorado. And who knows, if I'm lucky I might meet the enemy carrier as well. The Graf Zeppelin is sending rocket bombers my way, so it's time to put those AA gunners to work. I push forward at an angle, and once he commits to a strike, I make a sharp turn and take minimal damage. All the while, I'm chewing up his squadrons as well. Now that the air attack is over, I turn back in towards the cap to begin capping. And now, it's torpedo bomber time. But once again, the attack is coming from relatively straight on, so we angle and we are able to avoid the strike. I also get the AA Defense Expert achievement there for chowing down on more planes. The enemy carrier should be pretty much deplaned by now, as his dive bomber squadron is nearly expended. But I do want to turn my ship this time in order to minimize the chance of getting hit and reset. And that's when the enemy carrier pops into view. Well, I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth, so we'll just finish up the cap and start unleashing lead on the Graf Zeppelin. My first salvo was the HE that I had loaded, but then I immediately switched to AP as the carrier was broadside to me. And you'll see me try several AP salvos here on the Graf Zeppelin, but most of them are just going to be overpins with the occasional normal penetration hit. This really got me wondering what the armor scheme is like on that ship, so I took a look at the Graf Zeppelin after the game, and I don't think it's the Albemarle's AP that's the issue here. The Graf Zeppelin just has an underwater citadel, so I really would have been better off just shooting HE to get the penetrations and potential fire. But anyway, we get the kill with our torpedoes for our Kraken Unleashed, High Caliber, and Devastating Strike achievements. Now that our moment to shine is over, I turn around only to find that the enemy Colorado has killed both the Nagato and our Bliska that he was up against. Not sure how that went down, but definitely well played to him there. We're just going to speed up the video as I try to hit back and pad my damage numbers. We do finally get a shot off using the minimap, but the shells don't even land before we take out on points. So let's take a look at the post-game results. We did just short of 158,000 damage in this game and received the Kraken Unleashed, High Caliber, Confederate, Devastating Strike, First Blood, and AA Defense Expert achievements. Our base XP was 3244, and this is the highest I've gotten that I can remember off the top of my head. We sunk 5 ships and shot down 40 planes, with the only ship I shot at and didn't kill being the Colorado, who lived to fight another day. Most of our damage came from our shells, but surprisingly, our AP did more than our HE in this game. So definitely don't underestimate the AP shells on what I think is typically known more as an HE slinging ship. We also used our torpedoes to good effect, and even our secondaries got some good use by setting 2 fires on the enemy warspite. And for anyone interested, here are the equipment and captain skills I used for the ship. Main armaments mod 1, engine room protection, aiming systems, rudder shift, and concealment. I also use hydroacoustic search instead of defensive AA for my consumable. In my mind, there's always going to be torpedoes in the game, while you may not always go up against a CV. For captain skills, I have grease the gears, gun feeder, priority target, consumable enhancement, superintendent, survivability expert, adrenaline rush, and concealment expertise on Andrew Cunningham. Proccing his talent really helps offset the limited charges of your repair party consumable, though we really didn't need that in this game. So, the Albemarle in a nutshell. I personally like it, even though it has its limitations. The DPM isn't great, and the armor scheme can come back and bite you. In a sense, it feels like an HE spamming heavy cruiser, close in line with the Atago. And I do love my Atago, so this might explain things. The AP isn't bad, and is useful to surprise enemies who expect you to be slinging HE all the time. Having a heal on a tier 8 cruiser also gives me the confidence to make pushes when the right occasion presents itself. Like we did early in this game, we made the play to take out the destroyer, then disengaged to recover a bunch of the damage we took, whereas most of the other cruisers at this tier would have lost that HP permanently and may have had to play more defensively the rest of the game. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe and like buttons below as it helps me grow the channel. You can also click the bell to get notifications the next time I post videos. Thank you for watching and take care.